Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Lund. My company is Real Estate Surgeon, and this is part of an ongoing series of interviews where we discuss with some individuals who've actually been facing foreclosure and have come through it with flying colors and have now been willing to share their experiences with everyone. And this time, I am very delighted to have Lisa with us. So, Lisa, thank you very much for being here.
You were welcome.
Um, so, Lisa and I have had a number of adventures as we have worked together to come to a positive outcome for her family. And we are going to talk about kind of how this unfolded and what it looked like in the end. So, let me just start from the beginning. Okay, so um, there was a family member of yours who had reached out to me after having received something in the mail. Um, what had happened was there was a very important family member in your family who, unbeknownst to everyone else, had gotten into a situation where the bank was going to foreclose on on this family member. Um, we'll refer to this person as family member number one.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so I still remember we got together in your dining room at the house and we were going over different scenarios, things that you could do. It was an extremely stressful time for you guys because there was not a lot of time to figure this out. Uh, Here in Texas, not everyone knows this. Texas is like the third most aggressive state in the United States in terms of the beginning of the foreclosure process to actually the auction. There are only two other states that have a shorter time frame. So we had to move fast. And you guys were getting bombarded with all kinds of offers of we could do this, we could do this. Um, do you remember any of the things that were proposed to you at the time? Anything that sticks out to you?
There was there was one. It was basically like they wanted to come in and take over the house and just let us stay there for a little while. And he was an investor, and it just not what we wanted. It was too cushy and just didn't feel comfortable with him.
So it was very much like, you're going to do this, you're going to do this.
Right.
Yeah. I remember there was one case that came to you where they were basically offering, so your house was worth this much and your loan was worth this much, and they were going to buy the house from you at this much so that there's really like nothing left, right? But they would
Right.
let you continue to live in the house and basically rent it from them.
Correct.
And it kind of up to them if they want to do that. To me, that's kind of a it's kind of an awkward situation because, you know, for all intents and purposes, you consider that to be a family home, right? And so for it to change like that, that can actually be legally awkward as well. But, it wasn't our choice to make. So we talked about a number of options together. Um, and one of the things that came up also as far as the time frame was we had to get this thing stopped because there was not a lot of time to do it. One of the options that had been proposed to you was filing for bankruptcy. And I know this was something that was very important to you. Um, so this family member number one,
Right.
had spent a lifetime uh, giving to family and contributing to community and trying to do the right thing, and you just didn't feel right about, having this be a part of this person's record. So that was not an option you were looking for.
Right.
So one thing that we settled upon was we worked together with an attorney who was able to get it stopped, and I helped for the time being. I helped to finance that.
Yeah.
Um, and as I was sharing with you a couple weeks ago, I don't know that if I told this to you before, but there's a movie from the early 80s called The Blues Brothers.
Hmm.
And there's a scene in there where Jake and Elwood Blues are at the Cook County clerk's office, and they're trying to do some business before basically the world ends for them. So I can say that I have experienced this, except I did it in Dallas County because I'm there. I needed to do this work. It's like the day of the foreclosure, and I'm
Right.
looking outside, and like I'm seeing they're setting up for the foreclosure right there outside the window. It's like, and I'm going from one window to the other, and they say, "Sir, you're in the wrong place. You need to go to downstairs, this place." And
Oh yeah, I remember.
it was stressful. It was very stressful, but we got it done. Um, and so we were sitting together at the kitchen table. It was the dining room table, and the thing that we actually talked about, basically we had to talk about what you guys actually wanted to do. So there were a couple of things that were valuable. I mean, there was another family member, we will call family member number two,
Mhm.
who was interested in purchasing the house. I mean, under normal circumstances, that would have been great. Um, this family member was looking to build up some credit. It had some recent experiences where it would have been helpful to build credit again. Okay, so and this would also keep the home in the family, which would be awesome. I mean, so that was, I felt very good about, if that's something that we can accomplish, then that's what we should do. Um, so we did something that not a lot of people are aware can be done. And this is one of the reasons I'm so grateful that we're able to talk about this here. So what we did was basically what's called a wraparound mortgage.
Right.
Is it okay if I explain that for everyone who does not know?
Yeah, of course, yes, please.
Okay.
You need to know.
So normally when a house is sold, there's someone they're over here and they have a mortgage. And then here's a buyer over here and they get their own mortgage and they pay off this mortgage and now the house is theirs. Okay, so that's how it normally works. What we did here is family number one had a mortgage, okay, with a loan servicing company. Okay. We kept that mortgage in place. The house was basically deeded to me for about 30 seconds. And then it was deeded to family member number two. Okay. So now it's all in the family. And along the way, we put some contracts in place. So I had a contract in place. Family number one became my lender. Okay, so I had to make payments to family number one, and I became a lender to family number two. So family member number two would be making payments to me. So it all works. This is actually quite common in commercial real estate. It can be done in residential real estate as well. We got a loan servicing company, so family member number two just makes the payments and everything gets taken care of, ideally. Okay. So, so that's how we worked it out. And there was one other issue that had to be taken care of where there were some arrears on the property, because there were some missed payments. And most people can't just reach into a hat and pull out a rabbit, and along with that, enough money to, it was a significant amount of money. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we had to do is, quote unquote, my down payment was paying off those arrears so that the loan servicing company is happy and they're going to leave everybody alone now. So that was important so that this would work. So this was going okay. The normally in a situation like this, the interest rate that someone in my position would be charging would be like 11%. It's like a shark loan rate. Um, but actually, we were able to work it out that um, the new family member who owns it was getting like 6.25, I think it was, which at the time was like more than 1% better than the best interest rate at the time, which was okay because the interest rate that the loan servicer was charging was, uh, from back in the day when it was less than 3%. It was like really low. So in the whole scheme of things, I was making little money because I think it was like three and three quarters or something. No, it was three. I was like 3%, I think is what that interest rate was. And so I was basically making like 3% on it. So that's still not bad. That's still not bad. And I think everyone was getting a good deal on that. And family member number two is making payments and um, building up credit. So that was going okay. One thing that I remember, and this might be kind of near and dear to your heart, Lisa. You may remember the insurance uh, issues we were dealing with. So there was an issue at one point where the loan servicer was not making the payments to the insurance company properly. And fortunately, we had a very good insurance company that was good at fighting for us on that. So they were getting on the phone with the loan servicer to make sure that everything was taken care of and they got it squared away. So that was amazing. What's important about this, and not a lot of people know this, is on this insurance plan, multiple people were covered by it. So family number one, family member number one was covered. I was covered, and family member number two was covered by this. And so we were all notified if something happened. And so we could kind of work together on it. It wasn't like someone was just kind of left to the wolves to kind of, I don't know what to do. I mean, we could talk to each other and we could figure out what was happening. That's very important because sometimes people will just leave the existing insurance in place. And what would have happened there is if something had actually happened to the house, well, the insurance company would figure out in about 5 seconds that, well, the person who owned the house before doesn't own the house anymore, so we're not going to cover this. So I think we did things right that way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, and there were some other things. I mean, yeah. So I think that was working pretty well. I call everything that has happened up until this point basically phase one. Okay, so things seem like they were going well. But as we know, sometimes life can be unpredictable. And so there was a heartbreaking disaster that took place. Um, and as a result of this, it was obvious that the payments were not going to be, it was not going to be possible to make payments going forward. And so fortunately, because we had done some good setup there, so family member number one, there was a contract in place to protect this person's interests. I was on the hook to make those payments so that those his credit would be preserved. It would continue to, and we wouldn't have the house go into foreclosure again. Okay. Um, so that was something that worked for a while. Um, it was a stressful time because we didn't know what the right answer was going to be. I mean, one of the things that we were looking at, originally, the idea was that eventually family member number two would be able to refinance the loan and just take the whole thing over, and they to have uh, just a regular loan. So we talked about that. It looked like that was not going to be possible. I think we talked about renting it. Could you rent it?
We did.
Yeah. Um, what was it that actually was the deciding point for you as far as what was best for your family? How did you decide what was going to be best for you guys?
It was just your pros and cons, thinking about it, and family member number two is not going to be able to do what they needed to do. So after thinking about it, it was just best just to let it go and relocate.
Yeah, okay. And that's a hard thing to do because uh,
It was
this was
a
an important piece of property for your family.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It was a very nice home, and we hated to see it left
Yeah.
behind. But
It was a good situation for everybody. Yeah.
yes,
And I just want to clarify in case anyone knows. So you were you were an angel in all of this because I mean this was not actually you were not living here. You were a support to all of these people, right? I mean, you were kind of the voice of reason. You were trying to help people kind of understand their own feelings in this because when there are multiple people involved and it's a high stakes situation, there can be differing opinions about what to do, right?
right.
And so I think your family was very fortunate that you were involved in that. So you guys decided you were gonna, the needed family members would relocate. And initially, you had I we talked about it and I recommended. So I actually have the ability to sell real estate. Um, I actually felt like it would be a good idea for you to have because I was kind of, a different role in it. And I felt like as your lender, I didn't want to be the one also double dipping in in that role. Okay. Um, so you had a wonderful real estate agent picked up, and I actually know this person. And believe it or not, I talk to her regularly now. I mean, I
Oh,
actually talked to her for the first time when you introduced me.
uh,
Um, and I think she's great. I think you had a great selection there. At one point, we discovered, you know, as part of the move out, it was not going to be feasible to keep the utilities on at the residence. So keeping the electricity on, keeping the water on, and everything else. Um, and it just came. I was feeling a little bit of pressure because I was making payments every month, and it was starting to get a lot for me. It turned out to be about half a year for me in the end, and so um, I got to thinking like, well, it's going to be hard to sell this house in summer in Dallas if there's no AC. I mean, people are not going to be very comfortable in the house. There's a lot of psychological stuff. When you go into a
right,
house, you want to have that connection, right?
right.
Um, and so we were thinking about, well, I mean, if I'm going to be the one who is keeping the water on and keeping the AC on and everything else, what's the best way to do that? And so there was also concern about, because my goal was, dadgummit, I mean, we wanted to get you guys some money, right? And this thing is like it's becoming a money monster. It's like eating money every day. So we had to get out of this thing quickly. And so what we actually determined was the house was deeded back to me. Okay. Um, there were other options. I mean, and the fact that you were cooperative with that actually meant that we saved several $1,000s in the end. That actually made a big difference. And so we got it fixed up. It turns out, as part of the sales process, that um, there was a sewer line in the front that had to be replaced. That just came out in the inspection. Um, there was uh, there was a little bit of a leak in the where the where the laundry machine had been. And so we had to get the plumber out for that. We had to fix the sewer line. There was also a little bit of the inspection also found something in the roof. And, we're now finding ourselves in a buyer's market. And so buyers are being very demanding about what they want. They're like, no, I'm not buying this house until that's fixed.
Right,
And actually, in retrospect, it was very fortunate that we had made that handoff at the time because I was in a position that I could take care of those things, right? And so it was not on you guys to come up with, I mean, it was thousands of dollars to fix these things. Um, and so we got it taken care of. They were happy, and the house actually got sold reasonably quickly. So, oh my gosh, we got it done. And, I tried to keep you posted
and you
on
did. You
how
did.
things were going as it came along. The new owners of the home, I think I shared with you, they were delighted with the house.
Right.
They were so happy I mean, the house that had been yours is now theirs, and it is now their home. And so I think there's something to be said about, I mean, it's valuable to someone. It's made a difference for someone. So they especially loved the uh, your home. This home was in a very special location.
Hmm.
And they really enjoyed the location and just the layout of the house and everything about it. So,
They did.
um, and the good news at the end was um, we got you some money. So that was something that I mean, when you saw the check, you were actually surprised by it. So we had to wait for everybody to, get their final bills from utilities. And so I kept track of down to the penny, everything that everybody wanted. And everything that had been spent, and we had it was not as much money as we wanted, but it was not insignificant. It was an okay chunk of change. No one would be upset about having that much money.
No, and it was more than what we thought it would be. And I was very happy with it. I mean, to be honest, I really didn't think we were going to get anything because of all of the repairs and everything, all the finance issues going on. But
Yeah,
what we received, we were surprised. So
and I'm sure you put it to good use.
yes, it's in a
All right,
savings account.
very good. So that was basically what I call phase two, just the last part of that. And so, I as I look at the situation, and this is kind of the takeaway that I want to give. So when someone is faced with this situation, um, and there were actually two situations. I mean, there were two crises basically that we were trying to solve. One, we thought we were out of the woods, and then another one came, and then we had to figure out, put our heads together as to what the next thing was. Um, One of the things that I think made it very productive is that you guys were great to work with. You were very cooperative. Um, you did your best to understand what needed to happen, and we
Mhm.
got it done. It might have turned out very differently if that had not been the case. Um, I think it's also important for people to understand that it is almost never necessary to let our houses be foreclosed on. There is always a way, and there are usually multiple solutions to do it. And in your case, you had several options presented to you, and you had the ability to choose the one that worked best for your family.
Right.
So, yeah, so I think I mean, as people, I mean, I talk to people all the time where the future looks very dark, and there are questions about um, are family members going to be living on the street? Are this is a disaster for somebody's credit if this happens, if a foreclosure happens, um, and it's very challenging, but there are ways that it can be taken care of.
And
Um,
if that was for us, you coming along, working with you, you explaining it to us, and I know there were some things that we did ask you, and you were like, not for sure. Let's think about it, and let me look into it. And with you staying in contact with us, like you said, we were able to work with you. You were very understanding, and you explained a lot of things. So I think as a family being in a situation like that, you were a godsend to us. So it really
well,
helped.
and I was so glad that we could work together on that. A family in that situation is quite vulnerable, right? I mean, you felt the vulnerability, right? I mean, I understand there is a need for someone who's in business, they have to make a profit, right? That's okay. But it's okay to extend a little bit of grace to someone whose back is against the wall, right? I mean, if everyone can have a win-win situation, then that's a good sign that that was good business. That's a good sign that that was good business. So everyone hopefully should feel like their needs are being met, that they're not being taken advantage of, um, and and they're happy with the way it turned out.
And we were
Oh, good.
very pleased and very thankful. I mean, we're still thankful for everything that you've done for us.
Well, and this was a special experience for me too, Lisa. I mean, just knowing your family and I had a career in engineering,
Mhm.
and as an engineer, I never had an experience as gratifying as, a family in a situation like that, and um, having it turn out well, having it turn out so that, it's not a happy circumstance. It's not a happy circumstance, but what is the best that we can do in that? And I feel like we navigated that about as well as we could.
Hmm. And we did. I mean, it turned out for the best. Everybody is okay, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Lisa, I hope that we can stay in contact for years to come. This, again, was a very special experience for me. And I learned a lot about myself as well as I had the privilege of working with you folks. So um, I'm just all around glad we could do that. So thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Oh,
Um,
don't worry. it's our pleasure.
I got to tell you, not everyone has the courage to get on a Zoom call like this and talk through. And we've tried to be uh, very careful here. I mean, I never want to give out private information about it, but you've been very helpful uh, in letting us talk through things that were important to your family. So, well, thank you very much for your time, uh, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Uh, this has been great, and I hope that your story will be a benefit to other people and an inspiration to them. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.